Hey everybody, I'm Greg Soul and welcome to another CIQ demo. Today I'm going to be showing you how to add SSH keys to your network elements, right? So it allows you to do authentication via SSH keys. It's the new hotness, although it's not. It's been around a long time, but most of us network folks are accustomed to username and password, right? In my environments, I always maintained a minimum of 2 accounts. Generally, it was going to be more than that. So one is I would have kind of an admin account that had local login privileges, right? You're going to be using username and password right there. That being said, we would always have an authentication server like a Radius or AttackAxe, right? Something like that, you could put in your username and password and it would dial back and authenticate there. The problem with that is that oftentimes when you're working on the network, something will break, you won't have access to that authentication server anymore, and you still need to be able to log in to fix this piece of network equipment, right? It's kind of the nature of the beast. Well, if you don't have local login privileges, you're kind of sunk, right? So we would generally have kind of your local admin account, but then also an automation account, right? The automation account is used just purely for Ascender here to be able to log in to administer this device. No humans should be logging into that. And also, just to keep track of all this stuff, you should have this ship off to a logging server where if somebody logs in with that admin account, it sends an alert, right? Just so everybody knows, hey, somebody went in kind of the back door on this piece of equipment, right? So that's kind of how you could sort of get around kind of the safety or security implications of having that. To me, it's a must-have. Your mileage may vary, your environment may rather be different, but that's how it works for me. So anyway, I've talked enough. Let's show you how to actually add it in there. So I'm going to be doing it via automation because honestly, I'm lazy. So in my automation, inside of Ascender here, right, your enterprise automation platform, it's going to have all of your cool stuff stored in here. So I like something about the credential section is that it's going to securely maintain all of my stuff in here, right? So I can look at, I don't know, let's say this one right here, this basics credential. I'll take a look at that. I'll click the edit button. And no matter how many times I click the view, it's not going to show it to me, right? So it's going to securely maintain my passwords inside of my system. So having said that, I can create one that's for my admin account, right? The one that nobody should really be using, but, right, it's chicken or egg. I have to be able to log in first before I can add the SSH public key into this for an account, right, to create that account. So I'll go ahead and add it in here so that I can use that for my initial login to do this configuration. And then I'll also create another machine credential. So machine credentials are what you're going to use most of the time when you're logging into network elements, Windows servers, Linux servers. So it's pretty much the universal catch-all. And so if I'm adding credential, I'll go to machine credential. Right here, it lets me put in username and password. And again, for that admin account, I have to have it in here so that I can authenticate to add the actual key in. So I can put those in here, but for the automation account, right, that's actually going to be using the key right here, I can put in my private key, right? So you have the difference between a public key and a private key. That public key is what I'm going to be putting on all my network elements. The private key is what I have to authenticate to those hosts. So I would be putting my private key right in here. I would be clicking save, and then that credential's in there, and I can utilize that in my automations. But I'm going to be creating a job template in here. I already have. So I'm going to go to my template section. This is where we tie in all the various pieces to actually perform automation. I've created one in here. It's called something like Nexus Add SSH Public Key. I can click edit just to show it to you. There's not a whole lot special about it. I gave it a name. I gave it my inventory, which is a big list of all the hosts I could probably, or rather possibly, operate against. Here's my repository, my Git repository. We call them projects. It really just ties to a Git repo. And then I have my playbook here, which is in my public Git repository. So it's up and available for you. So don't try and type from the screen. Actually just utilize the link. You're going to be able to get access to all that stuff. And I have 2 credentials I've created in here. So I've got one that's the SSH key. This is going to be my admin account, right, that can use a name and password in. And then I also have an SSH public key. So the SSH public key, I've created a custom credential in here that really just lets me take it, paste that public key in, and then now it gets injected into my playbook as an extra variable. And so now it's ready for launch. I'm going to go ahead and click launch on that playbook. And while I do, I'm going to pop over here to the playbook itself and just give you a quick rundown. It is very simple. Now I have just a single host, my test host set up there. I have gather facts false. You want to do that on all your network elements, otherwise it's going to break. Gather facts is done by default. It's information gathering where it goes out to kind of a Linux host, pulls a whole bunch of variableized stuff that will break network elements because it's not designed for them. Anyway, in the var section, I have an automation username, right? What's the user account that's going to get created on the Cisco switch? And then the key content is the variable that's actually going to be used for that public key. You can see here that I just put in some dummy data. And in reality, even though a public key should be fine to theoretically, I mean, you don't want to throw it to the internet, but you could have it kind of in your playbook inside your organization. I guess that would probably be all right. I don't like to put any kind of quote unquote secret information directly in my playbooks. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend this. I would say use a vault if you're doing command line Ansible, or if you're doing like Ascender like me, just keep it in the credential storage, right? That way it gets injected in and it doesn't matter. Well, some folks also like to keep their public key in file format. So if you look right here, the commented out section, I'm kind of emulating that just for testing purposes. I wanted to be able to like test pulling it from a file. And then at the very bottom, you can see also I have kind of commented it out where it would look up from the id_rsa.pub file, right? So it's actually going to grab the contents of that and use it, but I'm not doing it that way because I'm using the credential storage baked into Ascender here. Now, the very first task, you can see I'm setting a fact. So I am setting that key content based on that cert key that's passed in from Ascender. So if I have that variable actually being passed in, it's going to see it as, you see the condition there when cert key is defined. So if that variable actually exists, it knows, hey, I passed in a credential, go ahead and use that for key content. Otherwise, it's going to try and look up key content either here from the var section, or you could put it in your variable section in the job template itself, right? That'll get passed in as extra vars, so it would grab it from there as well. But the real star of the show is the very last task. And honestly, you could bake all this into a single task if you wanted to. You could put that key content right in there. That's not usually how I try and write it. I try and make it a little bit more flexible, right? Because somewhere down the road, that key is probably going to change and you're going to want to update that. So this is a really easy way to do that. But if you take a look right there, I'm using the NXOS collection. NXOS_user is the module itself, and I'm specifying a name, and it's just going to be automation. And then the SSH key, right? I'm supplying the key there from Ascender, and then state present. So it's actually going to connect into there. It's going to create this user with that specific public key. So then I should be able to authenticate. So just to test it, I will go to PuTTY. I do have an account kind of pre-configured in here. Let me run it. Authentication. Yep, there you go, right? See, I didn't have to put in any username. I didn't have to put in a password. I didn't have to tell it what key. I already had it pre-set up in the configuration. Hey, use this username and tie it into this key. So it's using username automation, and the key is the private key for this specific connection. Let me pop back over to Ascender really quick. Let's take a look at the output details. So here's another interesting piece right here. It says module did not set no log for update_password. So no log means there's potentially some sensitive information that's actually stored in here. And in my playbook, I could add an extra task level parameter called no_log:_true. And if I do that, it will obfuscate all of the output there, right? To keep all that information private. As you can see, moving forward, all of my automations could use that SSH key. I would just switch to a different credential for all the rest of my playbooks. Also on my command line connections, right? Whether I'm going from Linux, Mac, or even Windows using PuTTY, I can specify that private key and I can automatically authenticate to all these hosts. You can see it's actually pretty simple to set up and take advantage of. Well, at this point, I like to say if you have any questions or comments, or you tweak or tune or do something different, I would love to hear from you. I really enjoy feedback, so please send it my way. If there is a demo you would like to see different, right, something that's specific to your environment or something you think would be cool, please reach out, drop me a comment as well. I'm always looking for new fodder for this stuff. I know networking can be kind of tricky to get started with, so I've been doing a few of those as well. Also, if you are interested in our automation platform here, you want some help getting off the ground, we do support on it, right? We will do as much or as little as you like. We also have some periphery tools that add so much cool functionality to Ascender itself, pulling logs and being able to do all kinds of amazing stuff with it. So thanks for watching. Good luck. Happy automating. Happy SSH keying, and we'll see you next time. Bye.